Portable TV. Come watch with me.
We now turn to the state of policing in the United States. Right now, authorities in Chicago have their hands full as 4 mass shootings have been reported in just under 1 week. The latest, taking place on Tuesday night, left 4 people dead and another 4 injured. Now, the recent spate of violence is prompting City Mayor Lori Lightfoot to take action. The mayor has joined in with other mayors from around the country to send a letter to the Biden administration calling for federal action and tighter gun laws. And over on the West Coast, Portland's entire special police crowd control unit has resigned following the indictment of Officer Corey Budworth, a member of that rapid response team. Officer Budworth has been charged with misdemeanor assault after allegedly injuring an independent photographer during an August protest. Joining us now to discuss is retired Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal Matthew Fogg. Matthew, at least 50 officers have now voted to leave the squad in Portland, but the force's deputy chief says that the officers are still going to remain on the regular patrol and that they can still be deployed to respond to protests. So if that's the case, what is the significance of this move in the first place?
Well, it shows you how much control police have in these communities, law enforcement. I mean, I know the mayor and the folks up the chain of command is supposed to be in control, but the reality of it is those cops that are out there that are on the beat, if they get upset or they feel like some way they're being thrown under the bus, so to speak, of what they've been saying, then a lot of times this is a way they protest. And another way is they just simply let the public know we're not investigating crimes and all of that type of stuff. So I have a problem with that because you're in a command and control environment. It's paramilitary, and you were sworn, you take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, domestic and foreign balance. And if you decide because you don't like what some of the officers, they've done this investigation, the same department looked into it, that looks into other crimes and determined that this officer did something wrong. For officers to walk away is not the answer. I mean, we saw it in New York City when they turned their back on Mayor de Blasio. He was the commander-in-chief, the same type of thing. I mean, when officers start to do this, it shows you officers are really in power and they're running this show, and they can just simply say, we're not going to do the job. And now you're in a quagmire.
Yeah, police have been accused in Portland of using excessive force over 6,000 times last year, just during a 6-month period following the police killing of George Floyd. Police in other cities, of course, have also been accused of using excessive force, like the LAPD, long before last year's protests. You were a high-ranking officer. What's your take on the current state of policing in America?
Well, it's a divide. I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, when we look at it, they always want to say it's a few bad apples. I say you can't tell the public it's a few bad apples because then they don't know which apple is pulling them over. So the reality of it is there is problems in law enforcement. It's just coming out because of the video cameras. The fact that now the public is able to see what us in law enforcement have been seeing all along. It's just that if you opened your mouth or you said anything, you was going to face the retribution of that whole force coming after you because you spoke out and determined blew the whistle. So the reality of it is that right now policing in America is a great divide right now. And the reality is that, hey, people got to step in and take control of these departments and say, this is the way you will run things. If you don't, then you leave.
The National Fraternal Order of Police has pointed to rising homicide rates in 7 major U.S. cities, blaming efforts in those cities to divert funds from police programs. But have any cities actually defunded their police programs, so to speak, in any significant way?
I haven't seen any real significant way, but the reality of it is, again, police are right now, a lot of police are slowing down. I've gotten word off the street from people telling me, said, the police have let them know, the people out there on the street told them, say, listen, we're not investigating any murders, crimes, we're going to slow down. And that's out in the public. And so what happens is a lot of these gangs and people out there know that. And that's why you see an uptake in violence and shootings and so forth, because people feel like the police are upset because the police feel like they've been thrown under the bus. So in reality, the police are not going to investigate, normally put the resources and time and effort into solving these crimes. And so it's open season. But that's where we are right now, especially in your inner cities, the urban cities. I mean, it's open season from the perspective that police forces feel like they're being thrown under the bus, which I don't agree with at all. I think that we're public servants. We have a responsibility to the public. Lawyers can be sued, doctors can be sued. We should be able to be sued, and all of that because we have a responsibility to the public to make sure we get it right. And the reality of it is, right now, and I think you got this impasse between the command and the what rank and file and the people that are actually on the streets.
Where does policing go from here? How can we make some improvements?
Well, I just think right now you got to get into these departments. We got to do these pattern and practice investigations. We got to let law enforcement officers know cultures are not going to exist. When I came on my job, I never forget it. I got all of the right training at the academy. When I came out of the academy, all the right ways to do it. As soon as I got to my duty station, the first thing my manager told me was, Fogg, I know y'all learned all that stuff at the academy, but this is how we do it here. So he was letting me know there's a culture in place. And we kind of adjust that culture as we go along. And that means if we want to beat people up or do whatever we want to do to somebody, you are expected as another law enforcement officer to go along. So people have to come into these departments, chiefs and so forth, and have to take control. And it's going to be tough because, again, when you got to depend on those guys to watch your back, if they decide they don't want to watch your back, you got a problem. So it's going to be tough, but I think it can be done if you get the right folks to start to take control of these departments.
All right, retired Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal Matthew Fogg, thanks so much for your time.